the logistics team as well as Ansara. Amongst ourselves, we are grateful for the presence of Datuk Dr. Muhammad Yusof Sulaiman, Chief Executive Officer of MITE Malaysia, who has been very prominent in his dealing with scenario planning and foresight methodology for the country in view of his patronage and guidance for the high industries of the country. Today, Datuk Yusof is no stranger to Ansara. He's our tokoh Ansara for many years ago. But for the sake of our gathering today, we wish to hear from him of his horizon sighting of what's next after current pandemic crisis that has enveloped the whole country as well as the world over. Datuk Yusof is our brothers from Ansara Kuata, Kuantan. He is the pioneer member of the first batch. His roommate is among our brother pengetua for MRSM, Wak Tari atau Cikgu Satari to some of the members. And Yang Mulia our Kekanda from Kota Kinabalu, Haji Ambotola Pelu, his roommate in 1970.
Yes.
I don't know who bullies who, but Haji Ambotola told me this morning that he's trying to join us if he can.
Inshallah.
So without further ado, Datuk Yusof, now you are on screen.
Yes.
Please, I know that you have a lot in your mind of this time during the MCO, but we thank you for your presence.
Yes.
And your brothers and sisters are waiting for your learned wisdom times that we are having.
Yeah.
I'll pass on the whole audience to you, sir.
Terima kasih Dr. Nizam. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Pada rakan-rakan yang sudi mendengar bicara pada pagi ini, terutamanya senior-senior yang telah disebutkan tadi itu, saya bersyukurlah dapat nanti dengar daripada mereka kalau ada soalan dan ada komen dan sebagainya. Tapi saya rasa ini satu usaha yang baiklah daripada Ansara untuk berkongsi maklumat yang pentinglah untuk pembangunan negara kita, untuk kemaslahatan rakyat dan sebagainya. So tajuk yang telah diberikan kepada saya ni adalah satu tajuk yang begitu mencabar sebab dia seolah-olah menanyakan apakah yang patut kita buat. Dan saya rasa jawapan itu bukan hanya terletak pada saya, terletak pada semua orang. Tapi macam mana kita boleh framekan pandangan-pandangan semua ni untuk jadikan satu resolusi atau satu recommendation yang baik yang boleh diguna pakai oleh kerajaan dan pihak swasta dan sebagainya lah. Jadi kita ni pagi ni kita nak berkongsilah tanggungjawab tu sama-sama. Cuma saya diberi tugas oleh Dr. Nizam untuk memulakan perbincangan kita dengan sedikit maklumat yang mungkin kita perlukan untuk berbincang. Jadi saya mulakan daripada tajuk tu sendiri, iaitu post MCO, yang saya anggap ialah juga post pandemik COVID-19 ini. Sebab dua tu perkara berbeza tapi dia berkait lah. Jadi untuk bincang sesuatu yang post ataupun pasca, saya rasa kita perlu juga tahu apa pre dan what's ongoing and then before we go into the pasca lah. Itu penting tu. Sebab the pre actually have given us banyak warnings tentang pandemik yang mungkin berlaku, yang sedang berlaku sekarang ni. Dan kita diberitahu bahawa 50 tahun lepas, Toffler dah beritahu dah pandemik ni akan berlaku pada satu masa di masa hadapan. Lepas tu foresight oleh OECD, World Health Organization, World Bank 10 tahun lepas pun dah menekankan tentang pandemik yang akan berlaku, yang akan mengakibatkan banyak apa ni disbenefit ataupun perkara-perkara yang tidak baik lah. And then of course kita dengar daripada Bill Gates sendiri 2015, 2017 beliau sendiri telah mengatakan bahawa pandemik ni is just around the corner and we need to be prepared for it. So banyak warnings daripada experts, daripada multilateral organisation have been dah dikongsikan, tapi sama ada orang ambil tahu dan juga ambil tindakan. Itu selalu jadi kita punya post analysis lah. Tahu masalah, tapi adakah kita berbuat sesuatu tentangnya ataupun tidaklah. Okay, itu the pre. And then sebelum berlaku pandemik ni juga, kalau kita nak cari penyelesaian macam mana nak solve some of the business problem, social problem, dunia ni pun dah mengalami what we call the VUCA situation. Maknanya dunia dah memang volatile, dunia dah memang uncertain, dunia dah masuk ke era complexity dan juga ambiguity. So volatility ni kita baru cuba pandang kepada trade war between China dengan US yang itu. Kita kata ni akan affect kita tremendously. So that's already volatility, price, oil price, another thing. And then uncertainty, benda yang tak kita boleh jangka, banyak terutama pada business. Tiba-tiba ada Uber, tiba-tiba ada Airbnb, tiba-tiba ada all these things. It creates that kind of business uncertainty in a way. And then fluctuations of kita punya currency, banyak lagi lah benda-benda macam ni. And then we talk about complexity, especially with regard to supply chain lah yang berlaku sekarang ni. Kita nampak betapa kompleks nak hantar satu barang, satu makanan, satu apa daripada satu tempat ke tempat lain. Dan ini creates that current challenge untuk kita, especially under the COVID punya impact ni lah. Macam mana kita tak boleh bergerak, kenderaan tak boleh nak bergerak sewenang-wenang seperti dulu lah. And then ambiguity, of course ni termasuk fake news, termasuk the truth news. This already created a lot of challenges to the global scenario. And then masuk pula yang pandemik ni. Jadi kita dah sebelum pandemik kita dah ada this big challenges, and then pandemic add in another challenges. So it's not new. We still have to face these challenges lah. So have pointed towards this thing happening. It's some sort of already explain some of the situation that we're going to face lah. Now ongoing, how do we look at this pandemic? So we know it's not a surprise. Patutnya kita dah prepare, but now it's happening. Saya nak ambil kata dua orang yang terkenal lah. Bill Gates for example, describe the pandemic as worse than war. About war, you can know who your enemy are kan? Your enemies are. Siapa yang kita lawan ni. Yang ini we cannot see. And baru-baru ni kita dapat tahu pula boleh di-spread melalui kasut, melalui kita punya pet. Now kita tengok kucing kita pun suspiciously kan. Are you carrying that's not good kan. But we have to verify that lah with facts. And then the other one is by Philip Kotler, the marketing guru. Philip Kotler described the pandemic in one word: trauma. It's a trauma. It's a trauma for business, it's a trauma for society, it's a trauma. It is really at that scale. So these things, bila kita nampak dia punya description, it is not going to be going away macam the other pandemic before. This is going to stay for a long time. So that's why is described by kita Prime Minister, described by many people, that things are not going to be normal anymore. You know, things are not going to be the same as before anymore. That's very, very key. Sebab itu set kita punya mindset macam mana kita nak face this future eventually. And then I think bila kita look at the this situation, tiba-tiba kita teringat dulu aku pernah tengok lah movie about these things. Kenapa aku tak ambil that kind of perhatian macam World War Z kan, was actually hard hitting towards what can happen with just one viral pandemic kan. And the movie ends. I ingat everybody ingat Brad Pitt je lah kot. Mungkin message dia kita tak apa ingat masa tu. Enjoying the movie instead of the consequences kan. That at the end there was no solution. There can only be a prevention, a stop gap measure that was to develop a camouflage vaccine. Dia tak boleh cure that thing. So these are the ongoing thing that is now we have to put in place lah. Of course, government because of the situation that is affecting businesses, affecting society, come out with the MCO, and then somebody kena mute kot, come up with the MCO thing, and then also the economic stimulus package, which was very important. I just wrote in LinkedIn because I thought the economic stimulus package ni orang nampak daripada segi menyelamatkan business je, but I see it as it is actually to preserve education, because OECD punya report 2 years ago kata people who are unemployed, they are not thinking, they are not learning anything, but people who are kept in employment actually keep on dia punya on the job learning, on the job education. So that means that moving forward kita kena fikir juga, we need knowledgeable, we need people who are educated to help to solve the problems in the future. So we have to look at many of these short-term remedy as not just being able to do one thing, that is to save the businesses, but we also have to look at the future, at least from this point. Now that's the current. So how do we think about the post? That is the topic kita pada pagi ni. So we know that we have been given enough warning. We know that there is the impact now, which we have to live with it for a very long time. But how do we move forward? So actually kawan-kawan dekat Ansara dah bagi jawapan lah. Dia kata you need to have foresight. You need to have a different methodology altogether, thinking about national development. So maknanya we have to break the mold yang memikirkan national development dari segi economic development, societal development, and then talk about other development in isolation. But now we have to think of it as a one piece. Sebab when we talk about economic development without putting environmental development or societal development or political development that's why it is very unbalanced. When this thing hit, it was as a result of kita punya not sufficient treatment of the other developmental punya activities. So we have to put all these things together. So then we come to this topic of foresight ni lah. Apa benda foresight ni? Dekat Mic kita ada satu unit called My Foresight, which one of kita punya audience, Hassan, junior dekat Kuota, is also part of that unit lah. That is actually in charge of developing this tool, this model ni for strategic thinking or strategic planning. So it is not the normal problem solving punya model. This is about strategic thinking into the future. So it is a tool and it's part of what they call the futures thinking. Maknanya people who are futurists, they think about the future. The foresight is a tool. We call it a mathematical and scientific tool to use and then to actually look into developing some scenarios. Maknanya what are the possible scenarios, what are the plausible scenarios, what are the preferable scenarios over a long period, not just 5 years. Macam kita punya economic plan, kadang-kadang industrial master plan kita 5, 10 tahun, this is much longer. And that end tu must be a value. Apa yang value yang kita nak capai for the country, for the people in that time frame. Let's say 30 years ke or 50 years ke, you have to determine that value. Without that value, kita akan apa ni, the futurist kata you're going to act like animals lah. You're just going to go for pleasure, and then apa ni, whatever you do is searching and looking for that pleasure lah. But we have to remember we cannot do that because pleasure ni over time dia akan become less and less and less. So we have to have a higher objective, that is the value that we are talking about. So that will define that future lah. And two things very important. Nobody knows the future, but we can do something to actually create that future that we want. So by putting all our heads together, kita fikir sama-sama, kita boleh develop a future that we want. So this is very important. It's not about solving just economic issues or solving industry issues or whatever. It is talking about creating a future that we want to be, what we want it to be. So that's foresight. So dia guna a lot of scenarios. Kalau kita buat macam ni, apa dia punya scenario? Kalau kita continue to go on this trend, what will be the scenario? So these are the engagement that we do lah. So it's kind of a workshop punya environment where you call in certain stakeholders, and then kita bincang what will be from their perspective, what is the future that is going to be. So that's going to create more than one futures, and then at the end of the day, you agree on that one particular future that you would like to work towards, and that will be the value that you have created. So that's foresight. Maknanya we have to do that. We cannot use the traditional planning model anymore. So dekat Mike, we have tested it lah. We actually have been using this foresight for more than 10 years, and we have helped people like JPA to determine the future for the public service. Macam mana rupa public service would be in the 20-30 years. So that would actually influence the way they do things and what are the activities program that is necessary. So you have to be able to predict that. Kalau tidak, you go on year by year, you just beli komputer and then you masuk software baru and then you buat benda baru, but it doesn't achieve that kind. So at the end of the day, apa value yang public service will give to the country? What kind of that services that you're going to give to the public in the very long term future? So then you develop programs, recommendations toward meeting that future. So it's a process. So we did it for the anti-corruption punya report, because in order to develop an anti-corruption punya measures dan sebagainya, you need to know how corruption will be in next 20-30 years. Macam mana this thing will be conducted. Macam mana criminal will do corruption. So you have to think about that, and how technology is either helping that or technology is actually helping us to detect that corruption. So we have to put all these together. So sekarang ni kita tengah buat untuk Industrial Master Plan Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI. We are using that foresight punya methodology for determining what will be the future industry that Malaysia should actually focus on. So banyak lagi lah untuk Ministry of Education. Kita look into the future of national labs, how it can help to be more effective in terms of coming up with innovation and research. While we are doing this, nampaknya the importance have already rise about how do we actually develop, test kits, how do we develop new vaccines dan sebagainya. It has to be done collectively. So as you can see, even in the world, there are teams that are comprising of different nationalities, different expertise coming together to develop all these. So these are very important development that we need to look at, but these are actually the way we should actually operate in the future. So as though pandemic ni Allah SWT bagi kita untuk kita stop sekejap, and then test new ways of doing things that are much better. So dia bagi kita respite lah. Stop for a while and then think about how you gonna do it in the future. Macam education kan, okay stop lah. Ada orang kata product of the education system are mismatch, tak ada look at industry needs dan sebagainya. So and then budak-budak graduates yang kita hasilkan are not really the kind of graduates that we like. So it's kind of a respite. Sit down and then you can actually look at this. Saya pernah terfikir at one time, patutnya sekolah ni tutup setahun supaya kita boleh really look at the whole education system and approach. But I rasa doa tu macam datang in a different form. But I didn't actually doa for the pandemic lah. But actually doakan for a time for education to really have the time to sit and then to see what are possible things lah. So then of course MOOC the online punya education punya delivery system was talked about 5 years ago, but tak ada uptake yang really serious. But now everybody is going to doing it, and in doing that kita get into a lot of issues with regard to infrastructure. Kita punya connection are not big enough to handle all this sudden rise in all this communication. So it's a respite, and it is good to have a look at what are the things that really kita nak out of the education system. So ni MARA, MRSM need to come forward really strong to give the views. So in MITE, I'm not the expert in foresight per se. It's my colleague Rushdie and his team who are doing a lot. And Rushdie is one of the top futurists in the world actually working in MITE. So he has been going all around the world teaching people how to actually do this. He's been educating the government servants how to actually look at not just tomorrow, not plan for tomorrow, but plan for 20, 30 years. So we have actually disseminate this methodology, how foresight is important to the government services. We do it for the GLCs juga, where we talk about some of these disruption that's happening to their businesses. It also help the GLCs how to develop the new business models to face the future. So these are very important developments that is happening in foresight. And I think about 3-4 days ago, ada keluar satu report on futures thinking in Asia and the Pacific, and that's where MITE is also being mentioned as one of the promoter, one of the champion of foresight in this part of the world. So it's quite significant, and then our contribution is recognized by the global community, and we hope that we can actually disseminate more of this information through this kind of session. And also we have a quarterly training program. Kalau nak join, it's only about 3 days and you can actually learn how to develop this program, this foresight exercise. So these are I think the PASCA post MCO. We really need to sit down and not approach the developmental issues, the developmental challenges as the way we have done that before the pandemic. And we need to have a new approach. And I think the foresight is the best approach. That's why we have been trying to tell EPU and the government to actually use this exercise to actually get a more rounded outcome, more long term in dia punya aspect, and also to be very inclusive, and then to actually take into account many of those things yang kita tak take into account in the normal economic plan. So environmental, climate change, and everything. So this is the impact of a foresight exercise. It's done in almost all OECD countries. In fact, I mentioned OECD has their own foresight punya report, dia punya unit. And they use this as to develop the plan for their countries. South Korea is one very good example. In fact, kita started off by working together with South Korea and then developing the model, localizing as we go. So yes, to the question, post MCO, my foresight, I think will be one of the best approach, one of the best tool to be used to plan for the future, so that we will not be caught by surprise anymore, and the developmental punya agenda will be much wholesome. It's not only about making money, it's not about financial, it's also about developing kita punya societal punya objectives, and also another element about national security and national capability kan. Because these are very important elements that have not been included somehow when we talk about national development per se. Dr. Nizam, saya boleh ambil nafas kejap. Or any questions?
Boleh, nafas masing-masing. Okay, please take 5 while at the same time Bashir wants to play our lagu maktab supaya lepas habis kelas semua jangan keluar rumah dulu. Nyanyi lagu yang akan diketuai oleh Datuk Kucai dengan baju maktabnya. Bashir tolong mainkan lagu kita dulu sementara Datuk Yusof pergi bilik air. Okay, we take 5. Nyanyi lagu
Thank you.
dulu.
Thank you.
Over to Bashir.
Wahai putra putri bangsa, ayo segera menuju, mengikut gerak langkah maju, bersatu mencari ilmu. Di zaman sains dan teknologi, negara perlukan jasamu. Janganlah rasa malas lagi, bersama memegang teraju. Di mata sains MARA, tuntut ilmu, jangan jemu. Ikrar taat setia pada guru, berdisiplin selalu. Hari ini hari mulanya, hari esok berjaya. Lengkapkan segala yang ada, kemuliaan kita segera. Di mata rendah sains MARA, tuntut ilmu, jangan jemu. Ikrar taat setia pada guru, berdisiplin selalu. Hari ini hari mulanya, hari esok berjaya. Lengkapkan segala yang ada, kemuliaan kita segera. Kemuliaan kita segera. Wahai putra putri bangsaku, ayo segera menuju, mengikut gerak langkah maju, bersatu mencari ilmu. Di zaman sains dan teknologi, negara perlukan jasamu. Janganlah rasa malas lagi, bersama memegang teraju. Di mata rendah sains MARA, tuntut ilmu, jangan jemu. Ikrar taat setia pada guru, berdisiplin selalu. Hari ini hari mulanya, hari esok berjaya. Lengkapkan segala yang ada, kemuliaan kita segera. Di mata rendah sains MARA, tuntut segala yang ada. Ke kuliah kita segera, ke kuliah kita segera.
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much. Sementara tadi, I think kita dah dengar seberapa ringkas the background about the foresight, not necessarily about the pandemic or the MCO restriction. For the next half an hour, perhaps we can drill down, discuss with Dato' Yusof of our own thoughts amongst ourselves, Ansara and learned experts in the country. What shall we do once 28th April come into pass, or even if after the month of April or May come into pass, what shall we do together, individually and collectively? For that, may I invite our President, Dato' Kamarul Rizwan Muhammad, to start the ball rolling and ask our guest speaker what else that we can individually and collectively start thinking and contributing to the current pandemic crisis. Sila, Tok Yo.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Apa khabar, Tok? It's good to see you again. I think just for the rest of the people, about maybe a couple of months ago, Dato' Yusof and I, together with a few Ansara members, we met to discuss about a few things. And one of the things that we discussed is about the foresight. This is before the MCO. It's quite interesting to see what he has said before all the pandemic broke loose and all that. And then now we are back here talking about pandemic. Just before you left for a break just now, I thought I want to pick up from a few things that you said just before you left about the purpose. Somehow we have to change. Okay, we no longer talking about financial alone. We no longer looking at what they call this individual development alone. I just want to ask you, from being from the government agency point of view, do you think the purpose of the GLC has to change, especially the one that is profit making? The example is TMB, Petronas, and all that. They are always national building. Don't get me wrong there, but they also, their main purpose is also to generate what you call this profitability and bring back the benefit to the shareholder and the stakeholder. Do you think the purpose of this GLC has to be amended a little bit, knowing that what we know, things are not going to be the same moving forward?
Yeah.
That's question one. Maybe I just get into question number two straight last so that you get a smoother flow. I think the question number two is that I think the way that we look at it and the way that you have explained to me just now to everyone, I think that things are no longer going to be the same. Yeah. The question that I want to ask is the people ready for that? Yeah. I mean, right now when we do a business, for example, even in day-to-day working, people working at home, that is creating a little bit of suspicion. Really good, rather than you buat kerja kat rumah and all that. So, is the people ready for that? If we're not ready for that, what can we do as individual, as organization, to make sure that we are ready for post what do you call this pandemic? Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Dato' Kamarul. Was really very impressed with your company when we met. And from that time, or even before that, I heard a lot of businesses that you have generated. Congratulations. Very proud to see Ansara member doing very well in business, especially a very tough business, oil and gas ni, dan I'm sure you are diversified into other things. Your first question is rightly how I was saying just before the break. There is such thing as what we call national total security. Maknanya that security should encompass kita punya economic well-being, our societal well-being, our safety, security dan sebagainya lah. So we need this. And we know that this kind of a crisis will happen over time. And as we see during this pandemic, we are not prepared in terms of our ecosystem, how it should work together to provide the best services or to provide the kind of products that would be required. Kita kena mobilize ad hoc, and alhamdulillah banyak NGO actually came to the front to actually develop some of the products. Some companies, whether in Malaysia or outside, has changed their punya product line into that which is actually meeting the pandemic punya requirements. So there was adjustment, but it's ad hoc adjustments. Kita punya, when we talk about this national total security ni, we are actually talking about how do we make sure logistics, for example, continue to be operated. That means cargo people are continuously being carry through the crisis, especially cargo. So I think in a way this is where GLC punya role is very, very key. That means that while GLC are making dia punya business meeting their business objective, of course, to make profits, but we also have to create a role for them during this kind of crisis. That means dah prepare dah. You know, macam Malaysia Airlines dulu kan, in case of war, we can actually mobilize the aircraft for that particular purpose. Memang ada. So there are these companies which have already been identified to actually to carry through dia punya activities during pandemic, especially not for the company benefit, but for the whole nation punya benefit. It has to change in the role, but it's ready. So in logistics, kita ada tak that kind of company that can do that? If it's transportation, road transportation, we used to have the likes of Container National. Dulu masa transport student tu, dia ada Container National. For ship, you have the MISC dan sebagainya. So these are the backbone of the country punya continued operation during pandemic. So we have to actually remind GLCs of this role. So that's why when we did a foresight for one giant GLC baru last year, we bring in people like the late Professor Khoo Kay Kim. Kita bawa Syamsul Amri, just for the people to listen the historical and the reason, why they were formed in the first place. Takut orang lupa. This is very, very key. So the role of GLC rightly is to be that safety net that we can mobilize during a pandemic. So that has to be really emphasized. Your second question, saya terlupa sikit Datuk. Boleh repeat?
It's about the readiness of the people.
Right. So I guess looking at the MCO punya record about people being asked to stay home, mula-mula only 80% and then 90% and then is actually showing that the realization of the impact of the pandemic is actually going slow. Coming in slowly to the people. Now, in this development, there is such thing as what we call developing smart cities. That means kita nak develop communities that are smart in terms of dealing with this kind of issues. Yeah. So maknanya people readiness is also part of the city punya role to provide infrastructure, to provide the communication system that will actually get people to be ready. So maknanya there needs to be a continued engagement with the society about all these issues. Kalau tak ada, then people will be caught by surprise, and if your question is whether people are ready or not. Yang kedua ialah, of course, education is very, very key. Jepun yang banyak ada kena typhoon, budak-budak daripada kindergarten dah diajar apa nak buat in case there is this calamity kan. Whether it's a typhoon ke, whether it's a tsunami, dah ready dah. for that particular thing. We Malaysia, I think for so many years, have describe the country as being natural disaster free. Kita before a few years, kita tak ada earthquake, kita tak ada flooding, bad flooding, kita tak ada all these calamities kan, compared to Philippines or Indonesia. Jadi kita punya sense of security itu dah embedded, and then we don't have that kind of a warning system. So bila lepas flooding issue itu and tsunami, we actually created NADMA, the national body for disaster management kan, to actually develop this kind of readiness. So I think it's not only part of kerja NADMA je lah. I think it's very difficult for one agency to actually touch everybody. But this is where community punya role is very key. Sebab bila kita orang approach the smart cities punya development, we talk about creating that resilientness in the city. Resilient. Bukan resilient in terms of agency je, in terms of the society, in terms of the NGO, in terms of government, in terms of private sector, semua kena be resilient. So these are the things that I was mentioning. Bila kita look at the new, kita kata new normal ataupun post normal ni, kita kena buat benda pun abnormal jugalah. So maknanya when we start to look at development of certain areas, this have to be a part of kita punya mindset lah. Then only we can be ready, Datuk. And of course, bila I kata society tadi, balik kepada keluarga, parents need to educate the children, and then dekat sekolah need to and then dekat every step of the societal punya fabric tu, we need to have all these education and also these reminders lah.
Thank you, Datuk.
Apa answer question tu? So very good.
Siapa tu?
Yes.
Thank you, Dato'. Answer all the questions.
Thank you. Next question please. Datuk Nick ada dalam kelas. Tolong angkat tangan dan soal. Sila Nick.
Agak hard tak kerja lah.
Silakan soalan lain.
Mungkin Datuk Nick yang tak kerja lihat pun nak kena tukar juga tu. Kita kena sentiasa kerja tu. Yeah, sorry guys.
Kalau tak ada question, saya tanya satu question lagi ke? Ke Datuk ni ada question, Datuk?
Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Boleh saya tanya soalan?
Boleh.
Saya bukan Datuk Nick tapi saya
Ya.
Izun ni daripada batch 11. So I have a question on the role of GLC just now was mentioned for preparedness the situation of crisis. Tapi kita tengok the GLC, how the GLC has grown up so far, becoming the competitor to other, including the Bumiputra businesses. And in my view, that the most important role of GLC basically to groom and to encourage the growth of the people's businesses as well. But now it turns that they are becoming the competitor. For example, in development and in fact in my line of work, consultation, GLC is not really encouraging the proper growth of the professional services. For example, some GLC, they will look at the international consultant, for example, performing better. But in actual fact, actually, we have a good talented consultant as well in our country. But we are not being seen at par with the international consultant. Of course, in certain specialty that the international consultant maybe have advanced technology and all this. But there are many other areas that actually we should pay more attention how to grow our own talent. So if we do not take this opportunity to look into the current practices and how the GLC operates, and we may miss this chance at all. So my question is that maybe and how that the government can look into this to get a real business people to the GLC and looking at not just for preparedness in crisis, but how to prepare the other businesses and entity other than GLC to also be prepared for the crisis. If we can grow these businesses in a proper manner, proper way, so they can also assist the government in the future to face any type of crisis.
Right. Thank you, Dato'. It's a very big question there. But I think it boils down to this, what we plan and then what we actually do. I think in many of those businesses that GLC actually are working on are those that are normally, I would describe as very requiring high capital outlay. You can't have a private sector going into it directly is impossible. Maybe at one time or another. So dia punya risk is very high, which private sector is not willing to take. And then sometimes the business has a very long gestation period. So these are maybe some of the characteristics kenapa government dahulu actually create some of these GLC, as well as other objectives like security dan sebagainya lah. Kenapa we have Telecom, TM, we have TNB dan sebagainya, Petronas. This is, I think, because of these characteristic of those industries. And I think the model is very, very, very good, very sound. That once the GLCs become a mega company establishment by itself, it can now create a subsystem under them. That is what sometimes we call the vendor system. We call it as a entrepreneur or part of the ecosystem of the GLCs lah, which I think is also very good, because kita dulu kita tak sepandai kita sekarang. We really need a lot of mentoring of how to become oil and gas company macam Uzma sekarang kan. We need that kind of a role model to actually for us to follow, and then we also need some kind of a captured market for us to start. Kadang-kadang this is the problem with innovation. Kita ada a lot of innovators, a lot of new good products, but tak ada market. So mana nak pergi kalau tak ada GLC lagi teruk. Tapi kalau ada GLC yang lebih open, is much better, that can actually receive this. This is one very important point of the pandemic, Dato', that we have been over-relying on outside imported products and services. And then when it hit us, suddenly kita find that kita punya businesses are not able to deliver many of these things. So bila kita tengok NGO baru nak buat containment punya boxes where we can actually do a lot of kita punya desanitization, these are all coming through. But dulu kenapa tak ada orang, tak ada GLCs or even other company that uptake these innovations? So that I think is not the fault of GLC as an entity, but that may be the fault of GLC in terms of its approach. Macam mana dia activate itself as a responsible organisation that the government develop it to actually help the whole ecosystem. Maknanya Datuk, kita tak boleh tunggu, kita kena juga approach the society, the entrepreneurs to actually help them. I think that is maybe not termaktub dalam kita punya strategic or kita punya mission or whatever, but you can obviously I think go beyond that, because you can see the impact of not doing that. And if you do that, actually a lot of our entrepreneurs, innovators may have a different fit at all. So I think GLC must have this role. That's why I mentioned earlier, kita kadang-kadang kena go back, we forget in history why it was actually ni. I am aware that about this competition, because might dulu pun kita ada buat training program. Masa orang tak buat training program for the graduates to go into the industry, industry kata mismatch, kita develop what we call a bridging program to help the graduates to go into the industry directly. Lepas tu the program get very popular. Orang start develop companies to do that. And we withdraw tu. We slowly withdraw, but we leave the dia punya curriculum, dia punya modus operandi to the whoever companies yang nak gunakan. So that's sometimes we have to do. Kalau ada that presence of private sector or an entrepreneur that can do the work, maybe in our subsidiary ke apa sebagainya, let go. Let them do, and kita think of new things to do. I think GLC should be at the forefront of this leading edge thinking of what is the future dan sebagainya. So I think that's very important. Pasal the consultant atau I memang my is actually advisory and consultancy. Kadang-kadang kita pun heran kenapa satu initiative by a ministry pakai consultant yang cost millions, and I always see bila dia jemput I to join the committee, I say this is not the Bossalton Consulting Group. This is not the PwC that we should have. Dia hantar budak-budak. You go to Singapore, dia punya PwC dengan dia punya BCG are those very experienced bawa daripada US. So the level of advice for that money that we are giving is actually compromise. So we fight with PwC, we fight with and we got, I mentioned just now, the National Industry Master Plan, the 4th Industry Master Plan. Mike will be doing that document for MITI using that foresight punya methodology. So we have to fight. So in education, we also got in transportation dan sebagainya. We're slowly expanding our services. We help GLCs too. So kalau TH ada any ni, boleh Tok Nizam buat advertisement sikit. So kalau katakan TH require this kind of service, so Tok, we are there to help. It's not about the money, it's about kalau kita boleh help in some way or another, we will be willing to help and do these things for you. So I think GLC under this concept of the national total security is very, very key.
So follow
I hope
up
I answered the
question
question.
dari Dr. Cordelia, Dato' Iso.
Oh yes, My
Dalam
junior.
chat tu,
yes.
she was asking about your role in disaster management and how to mobilize innovation. Disaster management.
Yes, Dr. Cordelia, my junior. Apa
Oh,
khabar?
okay.
Thank you for the question. The role of Mike is actually to link the industry to the national disaster punya framework. There's a lot of disaster. Sama ada we talk about flooding, or we can even talk about Lahad Datu as a disaster. When the insurgents from the other across the shore masuk ke Lahad Datu, and then create that situation. I remember that the communique that was coming out from the embassies, no foreign company should go there to support the kita punya fighting forces because it's dangerous. So the Ministry of Defence after 3 days keluarkan satu appeal for the local companies to provide pula, to supply the required equipments and etc. Now this is going to be difficult for our local players sebab they have not been supplying to Ministry of Defence for that long time because they're relying on the foreign punya products. So suddenly now isu kita supply bullet ke, supply drones ke apa sebagainya, dulu tak ambil pada kita. So how can we now supply to you? So we need that kind of a body, a national body, to link with the industry very closely. Macam juga flooding dekat Kelantan dulu, another issue. Housing issues, water dan sebagainya. So kalau kita asyik dalam meeting cerita pasal these are the things that we need to do, this is how ni, tapi tak ada orang nak buat pun tak guna juga. So might bawa that element of the industry support. Industri kata, oh aku boleh buat ni. Kalau kau nak, I can prepare for this. So that is a cohesive front in tackling that kind of disaster. So Dr. Cordelia might punya role in mostly everything is to actually get the industry punya support the industry punya knowledge into solving the national punya issues. And we always think that this input from the industry is very, very key. So that's why we are always very friendly. We are always very close. We keep on talking to them because they know a lot more than what we do. Even GLCs are considered to be industries lah, Datuk Nick. So we actually engage consistently with Petronas, TNB dan sebagainya. Is actually to develop this. So I hope that answer Dr. Cordelia's question. Our role is to actually connect the industry, the private sector to that kind of a cause.
Okay, thank you, Dato'. She has more question, but I suggest she to approach you later on individually.
Nizam, nak tanya soalan boleh Nizam?
Boleh.
Okay, Dato'. Since we're talking about the future, I think one observation I have is about this ownership of technology, because I think predominantly we are consumers of technology. We use technology a lot. In fact, I think individually, kalau social media, we are very active. And because of that, we thought we are already there. But kalau kita tengok macam sekarang, even when you have this pandemic, Singapore, I think they have been investing a lot in biotech, even Korea. Now they can turn around a lot of those technology into solution. But I think Malaysia is very much way back lah. So how do we move this forward? Because if everybody waits for the government, everybody waits for GLC, I know some of us here do have that sort of a leading edge punya work, but I think that has to be mainstream rather than something which we rely on others to do. Because if we continue to be consumers, then I don't think we can even manage our own destiny.
Yeah, I think this particular situation is not only faced by Malaysia. Even I think developed countries are facing this problem because the technology is moving so fast. They have to now really catch up and be a leader in those new technologies. And just before I answer your question, I think you have heard about our friend Kamarul Aerodyne. He's developing drones. He's using artificial intelligence for his data crunching and also coming up with the analysis dan sebagainya. He's in more than 20 countries. There is an entrepreneur that is engaged in one of the latest technology. One of that kita kata will be the important technology of the future. We are there. So question is, kenapa we don't have more of them? I mentioned just now Dato' Kamarul in the oil and gas industry. He's expanding too. So he's also play a part in terms of developing that kind of leadership role. Cuma question ialah, is it replicable? Is this model that developed both Kamarul is actually sustainable? Itu yang kadang-kadang jadi soalan. How can this be replicated? Was it the ecosystem that helped them, or did they work out of the ecosystem? Jadi I think that frame yang kita perlu buat in the future, where we are also working with MITI, itu ialah apa dia yang industri yang resilient in the future ni yang kita nak invest in, so that we don't invest in so many things, but kita focus and be good at a few things that we can actually become the world champion dan sebagainya lah. So drones already one example lah. So we are actually supporting Aerodyne, Kamarul in any weekend, and other agencies are also helping him to do that. So the question is, apa dia industries ini? So we have kalau katakan in terms of pandemic hari tu, suddenly Malaysians boleh pula buat test box, test kits and everything else. Kenapa kita punya biotechnology punya ecosystem did not pick this up earlier? So there again lies the understanding, the value. Somebody to value these things that says, yes, this is good. So mana kita punya technology assessor yang kata this is better than the one in US, this is better than the one in South Korea. So kita kena ada all those infrastructure to actually help to identify this. So So the ecosystem, Dato', I think is very, very key. For us to go beyond just apa you kata adopter of technology to creator, to technology developer, we need to have all these things in place. The way I observe masa 1990s, this ecosystem was very strong. But later on, somehow the system became disconnected for many reasons. I think it's time that we actually understand apa yang kita nak develop now, apa resilient industries yang kita nak focus on, and then create that ecosystem for it. It cannot be one fit all solution. Kita kena ada a specific solution for all these development. So I think that's the thing that the MITI punya report will actually do. The economic punya report will actually do. It needs to somehow align, and then we can get a very good big results at the end of the day. Kalau tidak macam ni lah, kita kena look at one development, one success, one impact as ni, but we actually cannot bring it all together. So Singapore better at it. All the biotech punya experts yang dekat Singapore tu are Malaysians actually. I think you know. There was a study done. Ketua of biotech labs are Malaysian. Kadang-kadang daripada Ipoh, kadang-kadang daripada Melaka. So we have not channel all these resources. I'm sure some of MRSM punya graduates pun mungkin ada kat sana nak kena cari.
Thank you, Dato'.
But these are that channel that we have not identified, kan? Really properly. So Dato', it is a challenge. The way to do it is there, but we need to bring everybody together lah.
Dato' Nick, Dato' Yusof punya offer untuk TH tadi, apa jawapan dia?
Okay.
Adik-beradik tu. Okay, ada satu follow up question, Dato'. When you touch on education just now, a friend from Qatar, Ravin Rajan, who is an international consultant and training expert, he asked about the national education transformation vis-a-vis cloud education model. Are we ready, or are we doing something about such?
Well, I think he has the answer, God, because he is in that area of education. I think one of the idea that came out about 5 years ago was the MOOC program, kan? Education using virtual stream. But at that time, there was also one particular barrier, one particular challenge. That was kita punya connection, kita punya broadband was not sufficient to do this kind of streaming for lectures, classes and sebagainya. So the 5G communication network development that are being introduced now will be able to support this kind of methodology, methods of delivering education. I'm sure that will be now already many bodies, even kawan-kawan yang buat aviation training dan sebagainya is now putting it in WhatsApp, in whatever, calling people to join dia punya webinar, dia punya classes dan sebagainya are all already there. And I think what they need is the infrastructure, the support system that can make it done in a very efficient and very smooth way. I think the education via online ni will become very significant, and I think but again sometimes that is only the delivery system. The content is very key. Bila kita put together what was the questions earlier, macam mana kita nak develop innovations, how can innovation be accepted dan sebagainya. The education content must actually support that particular objective. So katakan kita perlu a lot of software engineers, we perlu a lot of technology assessors, we need a lot of this. Can the new education delivery system actually deliver this in a much faster way, in a much more efficient way, so that the industry can have it quickly? So instead of having to wait for a degree 3 tahun and then baru I dapat software engineer, I think industry cannot wait. And these are the some of the requirements I understand when talking to people, the cluster in Penang. Dia kata macam mana ni? Macam mana? We need it now, but you can produce it now to your current education punya system. So these are the things that we need to look at. Delivery system, yes, it's going to be very popular, but the content ni is very, very key. And I think the content also goes down even to the MRSM punya level. Are we actually having the right content for the students to prepare them to go outside? That's something that we need to debate lah.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum Datuk.
Any last question?
I'd like to ask a question.
Yes.
Please. Siapa
Boleh. Okay. Saya Abdani ya. Saya tanya satu question. I am in logistics. So, what area what was the scenario kalau katakan this MCO berpanjangan? For example, because we interdependent with other countries, what will happen to Malaysia kalau this thing last for about 1 year? Like that?
Yes. I think kita yang tadi lah kita ceritakan because of the way the world has developed, the complexity of the supply chain was actually part of that impact lah. So we have sources of raw materials of certain products happening all over the world. I think all countries now are looking at nationalizing that. That means try to keep your supply chain as close as possible to you. So I think so that the logistical nightmare yang kita go through now to actually receive and send things a long way from where we are is actually being reduced. So I think for some of the businesses, it's actually now to do a lot of research in terms who are your alternative supplier which are closer to home. Kalau dia mahal sikit pun 10% pun, it's time for you to macam tadi lah kita GLC punya role kan, develop the local player in the supply chain. So we have to be open to that. In terms of that framework of the supply chain that we have to change. So that means clustering of certain industries are very useful so that they are closer to each other. We minimize the amount of logistic that can happen. Now for exports, I'm sure that we still need to open external markets. I study some of these high-tech opportunities around the region. I nampak even closer by, kita tak serve kita punya market. The 100 million people, the Muslim, yang dekat Southern Thailand, Southern Philippines, dekat some part of the Indonesia, ada 100 million people's market that is not actually being served by many people. So again, I think we have to relook at how we do our business. Kalau kita boleh manage our supply chain better, then we can actually ensure that kita punya operations will be smooth. But at the same time, to expand our business for the manufacturers, for the service provider, we need to find market that are closer by that has not been served, which also makes sense because it can actually be something that is familiar to us. Dia punya customer is very familiar to us. So this, I think, in many ways, we need to look at the market now a bit differently than before lah. So I think that's how I would look at the logistic development in the after or sekarang masa MCO lah.
Thank you, Dato'. Ladies and gentlemen, our virtual time is about up, but there are a few questions in the chat room as well as some personal requests to liaise with Dr. Muhammad Yusof Sulaiman directly. Dato', if there are such requests, will you be grateful enough to honor us with your contact for further collaboration, Dato'?
I'm very thankful if there is something positive that comes out of this bicara. I'm very open. I like to listen to you. Any comments or any possible opportunities that can arise, I welcome that very much. Nizam, boleh before nanti finish, just 2 or 3 points in conclusion of this session?
Boleh. Without further ado, let me just invite Dato' Kamaro to give his concluding remarks, and then we finish off with your conclusion, Dato' Yusof. Silakan, Dato' Kamaro.
Dato' Yusof, you want to go first? I mean, because probably you have something burning to say, then I can do it. It's up to you completely.
Apa tu, Dato'? Normally Presiden cakap dulu kot.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Dato' Yusof. I think this is a very popular event. We have up to close to 60 people chime in just now, and then in and out. I think we have 55 people right now. Again, thank you very much. I think it was very insightful. If you see I'm typing and all that because I'm just writing the notes. If I look at it, if I can conclude from what you said, there's almost like 3 things that is very going to change. Number 1 is probably the people itself have to change. We discussed this. We need to be a bit more resilient. We need to think differently. I think from Ansara point of view, I think we all been brought up slightly different from other people. We need to raise up and become a leader ourselves. We need to be able to weather the situation, and I hope all Ansara members can bring our family, because leadership is not just being a country leader, organization leader, but people surrounding us is people who look up to you. So I think we need to bring up the leadership in ourselves, and then hope we can weather this situation. Okay. The second thing I nampak macam Dato' mentioned is the process will change. The process of we doing things will change. Okay. We're gonna do it there is more businesses will be done online, meeting will be done online. So this, for me, actually a lot of question. If I look at the chat rooms and all that, is about opportunity. I feel this is also opportunity for businesses within Ansara, okay? Because of the process has changed now. Ni pasar Ramadan pun tak boleh buka, so people whoever at home can actually, because we different process, maybe you can berniaga from rumah. Okay, so I think this is also a process that we have to change, we have to adapt. And I thought, again, I'm more related to Ansara. I just feel that Ansara member need to see this. The process change coming up is also, instead of become a problem for us, it become an opportunity for us to use up and bring the Ansara to the next level. And the last one that I can see from what you say is probably the purpose. The purpose of even from individual all the way to government probably have to change a little bit. And I personally feel that I think that Izumi also said the purpose of the GLCs, the government has to remember the reason why they are there. Dato' Yusof will make it very clear. A few months back, myself, Dr. Nizam, we are seriously worried about the purpose of MARA. We are thinking about how MARA, they remember what is their purpose of existence. Is to help luar bandar, Bumiputra, non-Bumiputra. And the same thing over here, I think the GLC has to kindly remember that the purpose of them is actually to develop the businesses, to develop the society, national security together. Maybe there is a time that we need to really look at whether the globalization versus nationalization is something that we probably need to run some scenario on that one. Yeah?
Yes.
In the odd business that I in, more than 25-30%, which is close to 12-13 billion, go out the country every year. Should we not carve out some of those business for the local people? Because I remember when I started the business, by the way, both Kamaros, we are siblings. My brother, Aerodyne, and we are. So I think why we are in this kind of a technology is because our purpose is to always challenge what is not. Okay? And I think the way that we look at it is 20 years ago when we started the business, we think about why should we give the business to international company? Can we not keep things in the country? And I thought this is probably that we need to work, as Dato' Yusof said, it has to work collaboratively dengan semua orang lah, dengan governments and all that. Anyway, I just want to thank you for all the insight you say. So I feel that you put 3 things, people, process, and the purpose. And I think I put it in the different words, but that's how I read it. And again, I want to thank you for for all the time that you've given to us. And again, I want to thank to all the 55 people in this chat room for giving the support for this program. Thank you very much.
Right.
Yeah.
May I, Dr. Izam? I actually, the things that have already been concluded by Datuk Kamarul is perfect. I just want to leave with a few anecdotes lah. Satu, because the discussion was about foresight, I like to use Michael Jackson punya lirik. We are the future. The future can be determined by us. To a certain extent, mana kita boleh create the future that you want to live in. Don't let that goes without kita being part of that planning. So for Ansara, I think I mentioned Hassan being one of the group. Hassan can do a very good foresight punya methodology punya ni, get everybody punya idea. Kita boleh bring it up as a very scientific and very mathematical punya output from the brains of all the Ansara punya members who are actually frightened me bila Dr. Nizam ajak I bicara kata ni semua orang terror. So but that is one of the things that we need to do. Kita kena now, what do we do from here? We now need to use our own brains. We are the future, but the future that we are going to create is not for us. Kita kena bayangkan kita punya anak cucu nanti nak hidup macam mana nanti 30, 50 years from now. We have to think that now. Whatever we do now, ni selalu orang katakan, whatever we do now is actually going to affect the future. On Datuk Nick punya point just now, Datuk Nick, I just want to emphasize that we need to trust our own indigenous capability. Jangan sebab dia nampak Malaysian ke, nampak Melayu ke, the first thing dia buka mulut nak cerita, kita kata ini boleh pakai ke tidak ni kan. You have to change that mindset. Kalau Mak Saleh cakap, kita tengah nganga dengar benda betul tak betul. I hope tak ada Mak Saleh dalam grup ni. But anyway, but bila ni, we have to change. We have to change. And the more you get involved with some of these things that's happening during MCO ni, you tengok budak-budak muda Melayu kita that are coming up with the solutions. One of the things that I'm involved in is the combat, is the test box tu. We are helping them to get the connection to MOH dan sebagainya. We are helping them. So that's two things. The third one is finally just now yang the last question about logistic dan sebagainya. Do it for Malaysia lah. Kita kena look it beyond ourselves, our own businesses. Kita need to do it for Malaysia. Maknanya kalau kita boleh from our position to make more efficient the logistics ke, the innovation ke apa sebagainya, we need to do it for the country. Because whatever is happening to the country is actually part of what we have done, and for our own well-being, is how the country is doing. Before I part juga, Dr. Nizam, I think I will do injustice kalau saya tak cakap pasal the MCO in the light of what's happening is because we did not take care of planet Earth. The WHO has actually defined the well-being of humankind is actually the well-being of planet Earth, planetary health. So this is very important. As we go forward and do our own businesses dan sebagainya, we need to put that so that's where the beyond GDP punya consideration dan sebagainya needs to come in lah, how we actually measure kita punya success in our nation development. I really thank you very much, Dr. Nizam, Datuk Kamarul, for giving such a person like me this opportunity to share little things that I know. But I hope that actually will become some afterthought for many of you. And if there's anything, please contact me or Hassan. We can probably develop something along the way, insyaAllah. So thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Di mata rendah sains MARA, tuntut ilmu, jangan jemu, di perkataan setia. ke kuliah kita.